Hello everyone, this is Andre Clayton, president and founder of the Solemn, Sir, and today I just wanted to talk real quick about heightism and when men don't meet that beauty standard of being tall, they're not considered real men, and society laughs at short men because of that. And I want to play this news story that proves my point. So let's get into it here.
New at 6, people all over the world are enamored by a Riverdale man.
He just returned from Turkey where he had surgery to grow from 5'5" to 6 feet tall.
Wow. So this man flew halfway across the world to pay tens of thousands of dollars, he's going to discuss in a minute, to have his legs broken multiple times for height. A major surgery which he could have died from. For height. Why? And we'll see why in a minute, because the media is going to make a point. And that point, they're not doing it because of some, high-level journalism of what they discovered. No, it's based off of their portrayal of his struggle. Their portrayal and what they're going to do to this grown man's struggle is they're going to make light of it. They're going to laugh at it.
Fox 5's Alex Whitler joins us now live from his Riverdale gym where he's working on his flexibility and his strength. Alex?
Yeah, good evening to both of you. Some people view their height as either a blessing or a curse.
Well, because of society, a lot of men who are short view it as a curse, and they shouldn't. It's just another aesthetic. And, it is a hurdle that men have to go through and, go around or whatever they have to do to get past that hurdle, unfortunately, because it is an adversity that men have to face. And the media is going to tell us why in a minute.
Dynzell Sigers says he always knew he was a little bit smaller, but he found himself saying those two words Skilo made a music hit. I wish.
Here comes the poetry.
He wished he was a little bit taller, but not to be a baller.
I don't do sports.
Not even to make all the pretty women holler, but he needed someone to make magic, like pulling a rabbit out of a hat. All to go from about this height to that. But no, seriously, in these heels, I'm about 5'5", and that's how tall Dynzell Sigers was about 6 months ago. Now, he stands at 6 feet.
So before he wasn't a real man, he was my height, and now he's a man because he's 6 feet. Great. And then look at how they portrayed that when they were making fun of his height and what he went through with Skilo, right? So why even take it to that angle? Because it's acceptable. Anybody believe, would they do the same thing if a woman went on here and talked about how she went through leg shortening surgery because she's a 6-foot woman and she's been through, hell when it comes to trying to meet a mate because of it? And so she had to go through this where she had to, get her legs shaped down basically. And would they have the same angle? You know this. No.
I wanted to become the best version of myself mentally, physically, and spiritually. And for me, that included height.
It all started in
And what PR firm put those words in his mouth? Because it's all contradiction. All you have to say is you were not considered a real man until you did this. And now you're getting a better reaction from women, from men, and it's the reaction you wanted the whole time was to be taken seriously in your own skin.
December in Turkey when Sigers underwent his first of what will be 6 surgeries.
Surgically cut the bone, they put a rod in it, and they connect a device outside the leg that connects to the rod inside the leg, and you turn a key on it every day for 90 days.
He did that twice.
The pain that you have to go through, the risk you have to go through for beauty, for acceptance.
Once on his lower leg, again on his upper, and it cost about $80,000 overseas versus the estimated $150,000 he would have spent in the States.
It's called Live Life Taller. They have a rehabilitation
Live Life Taller
center. They help you get back on your feet, and you're there the entire time you go through the surgery. Whereas when I was going to do it in America, they pretty much do all the facilities I found. They do the surgery and send you home.
Originally from Chicago, he's in the Atlanta area to visit his daughter and heal with his mom by his side. Sigers
So he left his family behind because you could something that you can die from. Is it a high-risk surgery? No, but there's always risk to this. Complications, death, for what? Right? For height. Or more importantly, for acceptance by society.
Spends much of his time gaining muscle back in the gym.
And this is another 4 sets of 20. A lot of people approach me in the gym just to tell me like they're proud of me. They don't know what's going on. They just say, hey man, I'm proud of you. Like, keep going, don't stop pushing.
Because they think that you're recovering from like an accident, right? Especially if you're putting in that work, which I'm sure he's doing, because of what the trauma he put his body through. I'm sure he's going there a lot, working himself out heavily to recoup the muscle mass that he's probably lost, to be able to walk and correctly, and most importantly for bone strength as well, right? And people think that he's probably been through like some traumatic car accident.
Little do they know I did it to myself.
But he's faced plenty of criticism.
I think some people say love what God gave you. I think God blessed us with the ability to change things that we're not so happy about.
He says he's always had the personality. Now he has the height to match.
So that is just sad, because he contradicts himself over and over again. To be whole, basically, and to, be able to feel whole spiritually as well as mentally. Really what it's about is not being accepted in the skin that you're in, and then letting society continue to make you feel that way, and not really facing that adversity to make that place for yourself, right? As a short guy myself, I go through, adversity of being short and people not taking you seriously, and, people want to say jokes sometimes, and it's about being direct. And yeah, going against the grain and being confrontational, no cursing necessary, no need to throw fisticuffs, right? But it's a need to be direct with people and be something that a lot of men don't do, which is to be communicative when it comes to your emotions and, how that makes you feel. And sometimes you have to give it back, because here, check this out. As you know, most Americans are overweight. This is an easy comeback, right? I'm a fit person. I stay in the gym quite a bit, but I don't rub that in people's faces, and I don't make that as a point unless you want to throw, stones in glass houses, right? So what's very common is for people to talk about, for example, being short and having a short joke or two. Okay, so we can talk about weight and being overweight and having some jokes, right? And being light about it. And they don't, I've never had it where people sat there and said, okay, well, I get it now. No, they always want to then say, well, why did you have to take it there? Right. So the point is that, you need to accept the skin that you're in. If people want to then get nasty with you based off of them thinking that, most importantly, this is something that you should swallow, you should accept their disrespect, right? Don't do it. Not to the point where you're accepting all this, where you're dealing with all this, and then you decide to go out and fly across the world and break your legs in some niche surgery. That can go wrong, right? That's my advice, is to be communicative when it comes to this type of societal pressure. Don't accept it, because then it's going to make you do something drastic like this. And people might sit there and say, well, how do you actually know that he didn't go through these steps? Because of the drastic measure he went through. You cannot convince me that someone like this, decided to basically, what I'm saying is to fight for the skin that you're in, to fight for yourself, right? To not accept how people want to treat you, and to demand respect. You won't have to do something so drastic. You won't feel the need to do something so drastic. If you felt respected, then that whole thing about, needing to feel whole, needing to, basically feel like a real man, you wouldn't have to do something to, to be aesthetically pleasing, to be able to, you have to literally break yourself and change yourself physically to be accepted by people who most of them don't care about you anyway. You wouldn't have to go through all that. There wouldn't be a need to, if he really loved himself, right? Which, in a way, he claimed he didn't until he made himself whole. And, just sad. Man, it's always something. And the thing is that, when it comes to doing something so drastic, there's always some more adversity you're going to have to deal with. We are born, when it comes to, having to deal with something that's not going to be seen as acceptable in society. And the next thing can be his skin color. That's another surgery that people have gone through to lighten the skin without having to, use cosmetics to do something permanent to lighten your skin. We can get into that, right? And he's nothing wrong with his skin color until society tells you otherwise. Then, okay, well, I gotta lighten my skin now to be accepted. Be confrontational, be communicative. Tell people that you're not going to accept this, because then it's going to be an exercise for you to not accept that type of negative thinking that, well, maybe I should do something to make people happy. Risk your life for what? For strangers? Right? I want you guys to be happy, and a way to do it is to go through the exercise. And it seems so simple, it seems silly. What do you mean being communicative, to be confrontational? To what point? To the point where you're defending your existence. You accept yourself and who you are, and you're letting people know, accept me or get out of my face. You want to say those comments to me, then I'm going to say something to you, and we can go back and forth. And if it gets heightened to a certain level where it's okay, well, now we got to get fisticuffs, I'm going to say it. So what? Take it there, right? Because then what's the alternative? Okay, well, now I'm going to, accept this internally, be like most men, struggle in silence, because men aren't gaslit when they're going to be emotional and too expressive, because that's effeminate. Because then that can lead to dark things like doing this. And then you have the media sitting there and, making this very comedic. Why? Because he's a man, and when, men don't fit a beauty standard, just like when men are short, it's funny, right? And what he went through, his struggle, is funny because he's a man. It's funny. Don't accept it, And it's something that's going to allow you to become, to help you, not just become the person that you want to be, but to remain that person. Because that's one thing people talk about, is I want to be the person that, for example, my son could be proud of, or my daughter could be proud of, or my parents could be proud of. Most importantly, you can be proud of. But what people don't talk about is to remain that person, because there is the pressure from society to always change to who they want you to be, right? And then if you are the type of person that lets people wear at you, and you struggle in silence, you let them wear at you, and eventually it's going to get to you. And you're going to do something like that, right? Because you're never going to be happy until you make them happy, because you allow this. I want you guys to be happy, and a way to do it is to be expressive. So be expressive. And, do so in the comment section here. You don't agree with me? Tell me, Be expressive, be communicative, be confrontational. Let me know.